Welcome to the Guide, Not Guru podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Brock. My purpose is to empower women to create authentic, aligned, and abundant lives. After over a decade of mentoring women in business and self-leadership, I found that we don't need to adopt a guru's blueprint. We need guides to help us build our own. So if you're ready to lead and be a work in progress, you've come to the right place. Well, hi friends. Welcome to the first episode of Guide Not Guru podcast. I'm Kelly Brock. I'm your host and I'm freaking excited you guys are here. This podcast has been a long time coming. I have been a speaker and a leader and an empowerer of women for over a decade in self-leadership, in business, in friendship, and in life. And I have dreamt of bringing my message to more people in the world, and it's finally happening. And I'm feeling a lot of things right now. I'm feeling nervous and I'm feeling excited, but most of all, I'm feeling ready. Because what I hope is that by sharing a little bit about my story, the things that I'm learning, that I can be a deposit, that I can be a thing that happened in your life that helped you better understand who you are, why you're here, what you came here to do, the life you want to live, that you can actually get clear on it, that you can start living it in your real life experience now, and all the things that are stopping you, that are in the way, that they can start to be removed so that you can live a life full of alignment and authenticity and abundance. And the episode that I'm bringing you right now and why I actually named this podcast Guide Not Guru is because of my own personal story. I don't want to be your guru, but I'm so freaking willing to be your guide. I'm willing to tell you some of the things that I'm learning about self-discovery and about who I am, and hopefully it awaken you to something that puts you on your path. And so I'm excited to share a little bit more about me and who I am and what I've been through, and all the episodes that are coming. I'm just going to freaking bring you the things that have been helping me, the tools, the books, the people, the lessons, the perspectives, and I promise to evolve. It was funny when I even thought about naming this podcast. I was like, how could I name something? I've changed so many times. Like I know I'm going to hear this episode in a month from now and be like, I'm a different person, but that's okay. So I named it Guide Not Guru because I'm going to be my own personal self-expression. I'm going to continue to evolve. And my hope is that I get to wake you up, that I get to spark something new and real in you. And I promise to change a bazillion times and to keep you updated on the way. And hopefully it counts for something. So, why this is Guide Not Guru is because of my own personal experience. So I'm someone who went from Billboards to a personal breakdown to now being a woman who is leading women in how to build better lives and businesses. So a little bit about my story is I spent 10 years being a top leader in network marketing. The truth is, I've wanted to be an entrepreneur my whole life. I used to steal rocks from my neighbor's yard. There were these white little rocks, and I would paint them with nail polish, and I'd sell them at my bus stop. I went to college and had my own waxing kit. I loved the idea of being my own author of my ability to make money. And I always had this sense of creativity, and I always valued freedom. And so when I was introduced to network marketing, when I was 22 years old, I was like, this is what I was meant for. Like, oh my gosh, they'll give me the blueprint. They'll teach me everything I need to know to be successful, because I've always known I wanted it on my own terms. I've known I wanted to count for other women. I've known that I wanted to be my own boss. I know that I have these big dreams about the life that I could have. And I thought, this is where it's going to happen. And so over a decade, I spent building a business really successfully. And I use that with like quotation marks, because I built a business that was successful on paper And it was successful in other ways. I was making six figures. I had earned free cars. I had earned top trip with my company. I was on a billboard in Times Square twice representing my company. Like, if you looked at me, I would have been like, check mark. I've got all the things, right? So success, ching, accomplishments, yes. Married the love of our life, like has two children, one boy, one girl. Like, I've got all the things. And I thought I had it all. And it was funny. I started to get this inability to breathe. My son had just been born. I had a 2-year-old daughter, and my son was just a baby. And I remember telling my husband, Josh, I was like, I'm having a hard time breathing. And I was like, I think I got like some viral infection. And I was really healthy, really fit. I didn't even have a doctor that I went to regularly because I was so healthy. So I was like, I'm going to go to a doctor and find out what's going on. So I go to a doctor and they start asking me all these questions, what's happening in your life, all these things. And they were like, so we think you have anxiety and depression. And I was like, no. So I'm going to go to a next doctor. Second doctor, we think you have anxiety and depression. And I was like, okay, this is annoying. Third doctor, we think you have anxiety and depression. And I was like, this is so frustrating. Finally went to the fourth doctor and he said, I think you have anxiety and depression. And I was like, no, I don't. No, I don't. I was so frustrated because when I thought of someone who had anxiety and depression, I thought of someone who was unable to live their lives well. That they were scared to go out of their house, or they stayed in bed all day, or they ate all this food, or whatever my idea was. They didn't have energy to do the things that they were supposed to do. And I was like, I am not those things. I get up every single day. I put on my makeup. I lead an incredible team. I love my job. I'm purpose driven. I'm married to the love of my life. I've got 2 kids. There's been no trauma. What do I have to be anxious and overwhelmed about? And they all prescribed medicine to me. Like, we can give you, medicine, antidepressants and things like that. And although I'm not against, medicine when you need it, I have it in my purse now just in case I need it. But I was like, there was something in me, y'all. There was just something in me that was just like, I wasn't always this way. I wasn't always breathing shallow. I wasn't always overwhelmed. I wasn't always this shouting mom. I wasn't always this negative perspective person, which I started to understand I had been living in. And so I was like, if this manifested in me, maybe I can make a way to get it out of me. And so I said, give me a shot. Like, I want to kind of do this holistically. And so I started to step back and go, where in my life have things started to get out of control? Like, where could this have come from? And I want you to imagine like a wheel of life, right? So you've got like your relationships, you've got finance, you've got health, you've got money, you've got, your spirituality, you've got your relationship with yourself. And I started to look into these areas of my life and I was like, oh my gosh, there was smoke in every single one of those areas of my life. And where there's smoke, and y'all, by the way, I knew there was smoke before, but I would be so annoyed with the smoke when it came. I'd be like, oh, how inconvenient that right now they need taxes from me. Why do they do this to me every year? Or how inconvenient for me that my kids are yelling right now. Or how inconvenient for me that like my health routine, I can't keep it stable. There was smoke in all these areas of my life. And where there's smoke, there means there's fire. And I just honestly, you guys, I unfortunately was the epitome of unaware and out of control. I had no idea that I had been living so long with my head down, moving forward, so focused on success and achievement and the next goal and the next promotion and the next recruit and the next dollar amount and the next trip and the next billboard and the next thing. There was just this constant next, that I was always putting off for tomorrow what I needed to do today. Like constantly. And so by the time I got into this place of my physical body shutting me down, like making it so hard for me to fall asleep or to breathe or to think or to create or to lead. And it was so physically, life altering for me that I had to pay attention to it. I was like, how did this get this way? And I was like, oh my gosh, there had been signs all along. And so I started to look into all these areas of my life and I realized there are problems everywhere. And at first I started to feel like such a victim of my life. I was like, how did it get this way? Then I immediately went to shame. I was like, how did you let it get this way? Kelly, how did you let it get this way? I looked at my marriage and I was like, he's the freaking love of my life. Like, how did we get so distant? I looked at the money I was making in my business and I was like, you don't even know how much money you're making. And you're claiming that you're a success story. I looked at the way that I parented my children and the way that I was reactionary. And I thought, this is so far from the excellent mom you want to be. And I looked at my walk with God and my spirituality. And I just thought, you are such a surface level experience in your relationship with the divine that you believe in. And I looked at how I felt about myself and I thought, wow, the way you talk to yourself, if people heard the way you talk to yourself, they'd be shocked. I looked at my friendships and I thought, where are they? I'm loved by so many people. And yet, if you were to ask me where my close friends are, who would I call on a Friday night? I felt so freaking lonely. When I looked at my health, I thought, wow, you move your body consistently, but you never keep your promises to yourself. It was everywhere. I was in denial for so long, and I finally stopped and lifted my eyes and took the time to say, I have to admit what's here if I'm going to move through it. And that took so much freaking courage. And so I had this personal life fall apart and this breakdown. And I started to realize all these things that were not working. And if I knew well enough that if I keep doing what I've been doing, I'm just going to get even more of this. And I didn't want that. And, it's funny, I went to a counselor during the season because I was really just trying to say, what happened in here? What can't I see? What am I blind to? I remember being really frustrated because I was like, there's no drama. Like nothing has happened. Why am I so broken? And I went to this counselor and she said, tell me about your values. Like, tell me about what's most important to you. And I was like, oh man. I was like, my faith first, my family second, my health, and my career. And she said, and tell me about how that shows up in your weekly life. And I went like this. If you're watching this on camera, I had 4 fingers pointed out and I flipped them over. And I said, I am constantly thinking about my business. And it gets all of me. And the things that I say are most important to me get my residue. No wonder I felt so out of line. So discontent with myself, so frustrated, so sad, so lost, so lacking energy. All the things that mattered most to me were getting my residue at the expense of me getting a little bit further in my career. And I had well-meaning intentions. I had really good excuses, y'all. I was like, Josh would be like, hey, are you coming to this kid's birthday party this weekend? And I'd be like, well, I can't. I've just got to finish this launch, or I've just got to finish with this new recruit, or I've just got to, and then I'll finally slow down, babe. Then blah, blah, blah. I was waiting for the next thing to happen. And then I could finally be present. Then I could finally have enough money. Then I could finally breathe. Then I could finally rest. Then I could finally focus on my health. Then I could finally do that trip I wanted to do. Then I could finally, you get the picture. I was constantly saying, when this happens, then I'll live how I really want to live. And if you are someone who is a high achiever, you know the minute you freaking finish a goal, you're like, so exciting. What's the next goal? So there was always a next goal after the last deadline. There was always a next recruit. There was always a next dollar amount. There was always this next thing. And so I thought, if I don't slow down, I'm never going to live the life that I want. And so I started to realize that I was really discontent with my life. And what that brought me to, I'm sure in many, many episodes, I'll unpack. This is such a big part of my story. But I started to realize that the career that I had committed to in my network marketing career, you guys, I drove home from my wedding in a pink Cadillac. Like if I could have tattooed this company on me, I was like, forever, I'll be here forever. And I remember the day I was like, God, why do I feel so discontent here? Why do I feel so discontent here? And I remember this vision of me holding my hands, and I was like opening my hands up, like, God, please. I was like, change Josh, change this, change all these things. And I realized I had been white knuckling my career. And I realized, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to let that go. I had asked God to change all these other things so that I could love my career again, so that I could stay here, so this could work for me. And don't get me wrong, I believe in network marketing. I believe in entrepreneurship. I believe in all of those things. But for me, I realized I was powerfully called to that opportunity, and it grew so much in me, but it had expired. And you can be just as powerfully called to something as you can be called away from it. And what I thought would be a lifetime was only meant to be a season in my life. And I mourned. I was like, please, no, please make me want to stay here. I didn't know who I was outside of this identity. The role that I played, the leader that I was, everything I was wrapped up in an identity. And I had come into this business opportunity and looked to the leaders above me and said, you're my gurus. Show me the blueprint. I'll do anything you say to be successful. And I realized that's what had gotten me to here. But at some point along the way, I had started walking into so many rooms, listening to so many other people saying, who do I need to be here in order to be successful? I had learned how to bend to fit so deeply that I didn't even know who I was anymore. And so when God started being like, this isn't it anymore, and I started wrecking with that and realizing, oh my gosh, it's not this anymore. Then I was like, what is it? If I'm not this, if this is not my future and my career, who am I? What do I want? And I remember sitting back and being like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what I want. I had spent so much time buying other people's prescriptions for a successful life, listening to other women tell me who I needed to be in order to be happy, successful, have an abundant life, make money, be in a relationship. I'd been literally buying other people's blueprints and putting it on me, so much so that I didn't even know what I wanted anymore. I couldn't even remember the last time I had said, what do I want? I joke that I felt like I was like, Julia Roberts in Runaway Bride, where she had been with all these guys eating different eggs. She was with this guy, she eats them over easy. This guy, she's with them scrambled. This guy, she, eats them, I don't know, I can't think of another type of eggs. What I found out was I don't even like eggs. I was like, actually, for real, y'all, I'm allergic to eggs. But I had been saying, oh, this is how I eat. This is what I want. I was like Renee, or like Julia Roberts. Like, I don't even know what I want because I had stopped asking. And so I started to say, no more. I'm not asking anyone else what I want from my own life. I have to find it out for myself. And so I went on this self-discovery journey on healing myself, understanding myself, what's in here, why are things for me not working, but they work for other people. I just started to unpack that. And the truth is, I started to share that out loud. If you know me in real life, or you're coming to know me, you will know I'm wildly authentic. I wasn't then, unfortunately. I was inauthentic, but my true nature is very, very authentic. And so when I started to walk into this authentic season of my life, I started to share it with other women online. And I was like, hey, these are some of the symptoms I'm learning about, or this is the book that I'm reading, or here's what I'm finding. And women were coming out of the woodwork saying, me too. They were like, what was that journal prompt you said? Like, what is the book that you're reading? Who have you been learning from lately? Where did you go? And I realized so many other women were desperate for the same thing as me. They wanted to freaking know themselves. They wanted to love their lives. They wanted to be happy now. They wanted to stop the suffering. And I realized every time I talked about the things that were making me better understand myself, it made me feel like I was coming alive. It was like I could get up every single day and help another woman without counting the costs, find out who she was. And I got wildly curious about myself and other people. And I started to build this sense of community online, and women were waiting. They were waiting for me to write, to speak, to post, to talk, to create the next thing, because they knew with me, they felt like they were finding out more of themselves. And in January of 2020, I walked away from my network marketing business. I terminated myself personally from the company. At that time, you were not allowed to be something of your own brand with this company. So I knew that I could not be with this company and be who I really wanted to be. And so I submitted for termination from the company. And 5 weeks later, I launched my very first course. I had never had a client ever outside of recruiting women into this company. And I just thought, oh my gosh, if I could lead anything, what would I lead? And I called it Anxious Achievers Project. And I was helping women design their lives to go from anxious achievers to peaceful performers, to help them drop the anxiety of next, and how can we start living the life that we want today. And it was so wild, you guys, because what you need to understand is I had built a successful 6-figure career. I would say about 70% of our income came from me. And I had to walk away from every single customer of my products, every single recruit, client, reoccurring income that I'd had for over a decade, everything I ever built, I walked away from in order to take a risk on myself. And I'll never forget, sitting with Josh at the kitchen table. It was this wood kitchen table. I'll just never forget it. And saying, it's time. Like, I have to go. I can't be here another minute. I'm going to continue suffering. It's time. And I remember him looking at me and just saying, I want you back. Let's go. And it was the scariest thing. And I looked at him and I remember, it makes me feel emotional now. And I put my hand on his hand and I said, trust me. We will not want for anything. I know. I have a peace that surpasses all understanding. This is from God and He will cover us. And so when I turned in I terminated myself from this company, you guys, you may be hearing this like, oh, it's a small story. It was so big. My life dramatically changed. Within days, I lost thousands of friends. Not a few, not 100, thousands. I was with this company. I was a darling of this company. I was a leader for this company. And when I walked away, my biggest fear was realized. That my biggest fear was, if I walk away, if I'm really myself, they're not going to want me. And for a lot of people, that was true. They said, if you're not for us, or if you're not who you've been, we don't want it. And I watched literally my Instagram followers like decline. Like it was going down every single day because people were unfollowing me because I was changing, because I was being the real me. And I remember this one girl messaged me in the DMs and she was like, hey, so since you're like leaving this company, it's been great following you, but I was following you so that I could better understand how to grow my business. And so I'm going to unfollow, but I wish you the best of luck. And I was like, oh my gosh, who gives an exit? Like, just leave so I don't have to know. Like, it was painful. It was so hard. And there were so many things I learned from this. And I remember driving my pink Cadillac to my parents' house so that the company could tow it away. I was returning it back to the company. And I bought a Chevy Impala from my dad for $5. I went from driving a gorgeous pink Cadillac to driving a Chevy Impala. And I drove that car like it was my dream because it was mine. I got a license plate that said overflow because I was proclaiming God's overflow in my life. I knew that there was zero chance that this coming alive, this real and authentic thing that I was feeling like I must become it, I knew somehow that I was going to be supported. And I had zero proof on paper. I had no signed clients. I had nothing as far as financial means to tell me that I would be successful. But the way that I felt when I was being me, the way that I watched women respond when I was helping them discover themselves, when I was telling them things that I was learning, the fulfillment that came alive in me, I was just like, I know, this is my purpose. And over the last 2.5 years, I have built I think as of right now, it's a $1.7 million company. My first, program, my first program, I built it out of peace, purpose, and profit. Like, this is all about finding personal authenticity and alignment and stepping into abundance. Like, this has just been my mission. And I don't know who wants it, but I'm going to be all of me. And I'm still a leader, but I'm also a work in progress. So that's how I'm going to lead. Is that okay? And women said, that's perfect. I think we had almost 40 women join me in my first course. And I was just like, oh my gosh, there's so many things I could tell you about that. I will continue to tell you about that. But I have watched program after program. I've watched client after client. I've watched such abundance happen in my life and in the lives of my clients when I have taught them how to find for themselves their authentic blueprint. Not mine. It's why I'm willing to be your guide, but not your guru. I'm willing to tell you what I wrote in my journal and the stories that have unfolded and the people I'm working with and the tools that I've used. It's what you can come to expect on this podcast. I'm willing. I'm like so willing to share all those things so that you can follow the next step. Because when you find out who you are and when you start to understand your purpose and know what you're made for, and when you start to act in agreement to that, be an energetic alignment to who you are and what you came here to do, you will watch magic unfold in your life. I have seen miracles. I am surrounded by miracles. My clients, every day, they tell me about the things that have happened in their lives and in their relationships and in themselves and in their money and in their businesses. And they're like, I cannot even believe this is real. And I'm like, I know. And I get to celebrate their successes because they are being themselves. You are incredible. You were meant for a purpose. And your purpose is something that evolves. And right now, if you are hearing the sound of my voice and something is coming alive in you, it's because you were meant to hear this. You already know you're bigger than who you've been being. You already know there is something more that's supposed to come from you. And I feel honored and excited to get to help you not buy other people's blueprints anymore, but to build your own, to build the life of your dreams by your own design, to know yourself so wholly and completely, and to give yourself over to the process of just being like, who am I? What do I love? Do I even like eggs? You're going to find out what you love to eat and who you are, and how who you are is actually written in the stars, and how you can start to better trust your own intuition. So much of my work is intuition development with women. How do we start to trust ourselves in the risks and investments and in relationships? How do we have the courage to speak our truth? How do we move out of the old version of ourselves into the new version of ourselves? How do we start to find what we want? How do we declare it? How do we become it? How do we show up as her? So thank you for being with me. I promise to be a leader and a work in progress here. And I hope that you will tune in. I hope that if this resonates with you, that you won't just keep it for yourself, that you will literally listen to these episodes and say, who else is this for? And share these episodes. My mission in life is to help women step into their authentic selves, to live aligned lives, and to watch the abundance that they get to experience in their lifetime unfold. And I know that it's happening as a me. I know it. And so this is me repping her out. This is me showing up as her. And I cannot wait to be with you in all the next episodes to unfold. So I'm excited. Can't wait. And I'll see you guys soon. Hey friend, thank you for listening. My goal is to empower as many women as possible. If this episode supported you in any way, I would love it if you'd leave me a review or let me know on Instagram. You can take a screenshot or tag me or just shoot me a DM. If you're looking for any kind of additional support, don't hesitate to reach out. See you here next Tuesday.